Morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time coming out this morning. I am Robert Crease, the Liberal Party candidate for Portage Lisgar. I'll get it out of the way right away. I live in Winnipeg. I do not live in Portage Lisgar riding. I live about 4 miles from Oak Bluff, though, which is on the eastern edge of the riding. I have a mother-in-law whose father was born in Gretna, who was actually an all-tester with the church in Gretna. So I have ties to the community on a lengthy basis that way. But southern Manitoba is also an area that my wife and I spend a lot of time in traveling. So I hope that you also understand that I have committed. If anyone heard my interview on Portage Online the day after the election call, was that I committed to be in the riding, visiting with the communities in the riding for an opportunity for those people to get to know me, and more importantly for me to have an opportunity to get to know better the people in the riding and what the issues and concerns are that they're facing. This election is a very unique election. There hasn't been one in my lifetime, certainly, that has meant as much and potentially has been as important as this one is. And that's because of the threat that we have that's been placed from the United States south of the border. What was our longtime ally, our longtime defender, has chosen to take and call us, our Prime Minister, the governor of the 51st state of the United States. Those comments have never been walked back. And it was those comments and what has happened since the inauguration in the South that I literally became afraid for my children and my grandchildren in this country. I am the son of immigrant parents who immigrated to Canada after the Second World War. My mother spent 2 years as a child in a refugee camp. I had the fortunate experience of having all of my grandparents with me. They immigrated as well. So I've heard some of the stories, the ones that they were willing to talk about, of what life was like in Europe during the Second World War. That's why I'm so fearful of what's happening here. So this leadership, this election isn't about Brandon or Kevin or Janine. It's not about us, really. Primarily, this election is about who is the best person to lead us, to lead Canada against Donald Trump and what he is trying to do to this country. And in my view, the reason that I got off the couch and stopped yelling at the TV was I felt it was just far too important to not get up and at least have the opportunity to counter some of the talk that is out there. I wanted people to be aware of how important the issues are in what the United States is potentially doing to us as well as other countries in the world. So I joined this battle from being retired. I believe that Mr. Carney is the only person, based on his experience, former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England, recommended by the Prime Minister who hired him to the Bank of England, to be the bank governor there. He is one individual who has the training in economics. He understands things in such a way from a financial perspective that I have not seen in any other Prime Minister that I can find in the history of this country. And I'll give you an example of that as we go along. Mr. Carney, based on the roles that he's had, has a Rolodex where he probably knows and has had conversations with every world leader. If a crisis comes up, he can pick up the phone and he can speak with those people. He knows who they are, they know who he is, how he thinks, and what he's capable of. We recently had the United States throw tariffs on every country in the world. Mr. Carney refused to speak to Mr. Trump until he, in Mr. Carney's word, showed the respect of our sovereignty and stopped referring to us as the 51st state. Mr. Carney then took a flight to the European Union to visit with leaders there, leaders of Australia and Japan. When the tariffs hit, there was something that was put into process where treasury bills of the United States, which all of the major countries hold, essentially US debt, were starting to be sold off, which caused the stock markets to go down. It also caused the US dollar to go down. The next day, the tariffs came off. There isn't anyone that I know that had the level of sophistication to understand how to do that and how much impact it would have on the United States. Mr. Carney was able to use financial leverage to hold a country 10 times our size at bay, and will continue to do so with the cooperation of the other countries. It is his financial expertise where he will leverage the resources, the limited resources of the government, to not spend money, but invest money. The example that he's used is that when you buy a house, you're investing in the house. The house goes up in value over time. But you do have things like electrical bills, gas bills, water bills. Those are operating expenses. What Mr. Carney has pledged to do is to lower those operating expenses, invest in the economy by removing interprovincial trade barriers, removing the barriers that allow for the free movement of skilled workers, of healthcare workers, not only to move between provinces, but also streamlining the processes which would allow us to recruit doctors and nurses from outside this country to come and work here, as well as other skilled workers. Mr. Carney, in less than 35 days, developed the platform for the party. This is 67 pages long. This was done the whole time he was campaigning for the prime ministers. It's the only plan, really, that we've seen that has as deeply thought out in terms of all of the areas that he wants to address. He wants to address bail. He wants to address, and bail, of course, is a very large degree responsibility of the provincial government and Crown prosecutors. But he wants to also look at having life sentences be consecutive, not just concurrent. He wants to build us into an energy superpower. He's talking about having new pipelines, ways to export our oil outside of Hudson's Bay, as well as getting an energy corridor of hydroelectricity for the east-west corridor that has long been talked about. He is working to unite this country with all of the provincial leaders, although there are one or two that seem to be a little bit resistant to that idea, but even Quebec is starting to see some light. Mr. Carney wants to unite us, bring us all together, the same way that when the tariffs hit Canada, all Canadians, without having to be told, understood what they needed to do. They stopped buying American products. He wants to build this country the way the country started to build when we built the railways, when the settlers broke the soil here in the prairies. Nation building. That's what he wants to do. I will be a voice for you, though I am a Liberal. I speak for Portage Lisgar if you send me there, and that's who I will proudly represent. And I thank you for this time and opportunity.
All right, I'm the son of a very long-winded preacher. We frequently had 2-hour-long sermons, so I hope I don't take after him. I'm Kevin Larson. I'm 35 years old. I have 2 children. I'm a single father, Caitlin and Benjamin. They're teenagers. Yes, I look young for my age. People's Party of Canada, we're relatively a new party, newest party on the ballot this election. Most people still liken us to the Conservative Party, where about half our members come from. But we are different parties. We have different platforms, and we have different values and goals for this upcoming election. And so I'm going to talk about a few of them because I think that's the biggest thing that will change people's mind from voting for Brandon to vote for me. The Conservatives want to have the immigration coming into our country down to 250,000 a year. We want a complete halt on that until our housing situation improves. You can't let the water keep running when it's overflowing and expect it to get better. We will refocus on bringing in skilled immigrants once Canada has settled things down and our services and healthcare are no longer overburdened. We'll repeal all carbon tax laws, but beyond that, we'll actually not give tax dollars for green initiatives. This is a tax by another name. If you take tax dollars and you give them to someone, those dollars are coming out of taxpayers' money. We'll abolish the capital gains tax completely without stipulations. We won't say what you have to do with your money. You will be free to do with it as you please. We'll make it easier for private healthcare facilities to be established in Canada. We have among the worst healthcare system in the Western world, and systems that have adopted a good blend of private and universal are doing a lot better than us. We often are rich and are wealthy, often fly to these countries for proper healthcare in a timely manner because they can't get it here. And so we want to open that up to everyone. We'll downside the federal government. This will reduce our spending, but also the bureaucracy that is in many of our day-to-day lives. pretty much if a local or provincial government is dealing with something, the federal government doesn't need to be there as well. If they want to ask for help, that's one thing, but we shouldn't be there saying you have to use us, you have to do what we say, when it should be a local matter. We'll eliminate corporate welfare, something that we do agree on with the Conservatives. The CBC, we would eliminate their funding, but every other business that requires the government to stay afloat, if your private business does poorly, you don't get to stay afloat. You have to manage it well, you have to do it well. Everywhere across the world, they're able to have news organizations that run effectively, efficiency, and most of them do it by promoting the news, reporting the news, and not whatever you would call is on the CBC these days. We'll simplify the tax system and roll back taxes based on as our spending and our debt decreases. We're the only party that actually has a realistic plan of tax cuts. We're not just promising tax cuts, saying that, hey, we can cut your taxes, it'll be cheaper, but we'll actually show you the spending we're cutting to afford that. If we just cut taxes without cutting spending, all we're doing is kicking debt down the road to our children and our grandchildren. And so we will do a mindful of our spending as well as tax cuts. The goal would be a flat income tax of 15%, but it will not be something we do immediately because of we need to balance the budget first. We'll repeal Bill C-4. This passed without any opposition. This bill does not allow parents, religious leaders, therapists, or counselors from helping those struggling with dysphoria to learn to accept themselves as they are. We'll protect your right to defend yourself and others and your property. And if you're ever in an unfortunate situation of having to use force against a criminal, you will never be detained, face charges, or a civil lawsuit. The burden of proof should be on the justice system that you used excessive force. Currently, it is your burden to show that you had to defend yourself. This is backwards. You are innocent until proven guilty. We just had that situation in McGregor where 3 farms had armed people with rifles show up, and how tragic it would have been if one of those people had to defend themselves and then were facing charges and legal, long, costly battles that we've seen in their country. In addition, with safety and defending yourself, pepper spray will be made legal because it's a sad fact, but crime, especially against women, is increasing in Canada, and they should have the right to defend themselves. We'll end supply management. This will end price fixing. It'll end the wasteful practice of quotas that are forcing up to 30 million liters of milk a year be dumped out because they are over quota. Imagine how much cheaper it would be with that much more milk on the market. This will drive down costs and allow dairy farmers to expand their herds as they wish. They won't have to, more cows means more milk, and they'd be able to do that freely. Canada is also the only democracy in the world without any abortion restrictions, and it's time we change that and join the civilized world and restrict it properly. We'll not only repeal Bill 21 and C-71 like the Conservatives have committed to, but we'll commit to lifting the handgun freeze, allowing lawful gun owners who are the safest, most vetted people in the country the ability to continue sport and target shooting. As a gun owner myself, I get a background check run on me every single day. Not many people know that. And across the country, we are safer than school teachers or public servants as far as committing violent crimes. So why are we restricted? We'll rework programs for veterans, simplifying it so that programs that they need can easily be found and accessible. We'll re-emphasize the legislative guarantee that benefit of the doubt standard under the Pension Act. Your service-related illness or injury should not be your responsibility to prove that was caused by duty. And personally, I would push to put that on our emergency service workers and our police officers. I don't know if anyone's ever followed up with the Greyhound bus beheading, but I believe there's 3 or even 4 first responders that have taken their lives since that happened because they were denied access to mental health care, and I think that's a travesty. We'll protect freedom of speech and expression. We'll limit the ambiguous wording of hate speech, so it only includes speech that explicitly advocates violence against an identifiable group. And that are some of the difference that we have than the Conservatives. Many people that reach out to me haven't said they don't like our platform. They're just worried about Carney being elected, and I can understand that. We've had 9 years of just terrible policy that have brought us to our knees. But I encourage you to take a look at our riding's voting record. We don't have to worry about that. Between Brendan and the PPC in the last 2 elections, you can cut the vote in half and then cut it again, and it's still going to be one of us getting in. There's no fear of the vote split. You can freely vote your conscience and your values. The last difference I offer is the People's Party is the only party on the ballot that freely lets their candidates choose, vote their conscience. All the other candidates will have to vote on party lines. So if something comes up that a party is pushing that goes against the people of Portage Lisgar, I would be able to break free from the party, vote my conscience without reprimand from the party, unlike the other parties, but only gets to do that in special circumstances. Most of all, on April 28th, I hope everyone will take their family, friends, and coworkers and go vote. I think I speak for all the candidates here that we love if Portage Lisgar had the highest voter turnout, because that's truly the only way we can make our voices known is by voting. And the non-voters are the highest group in our country, more than any political party. And if we can inspire any change we want, if everyone would show up and vote. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to Stephanie and the Portage Chamber for organizing today's event. And thank you to my fellow candidates for coming out and putting your name on a ballot. It is not something that everybody wants to do, and it not always is an easy task at a doorstep, so I applaud you for that. And thank you all for coming out here today. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Brandon Leslie, and I have had the distinct pleasure of being your Member of Parliament for just under 2 years now. And I'm a farm kid from just south of Portage la Prairie. I live here in town with my beautiful bride, Kaylee, and our just turned 15-month-old daughter, Maeve. And like everyone in this room, and I think across our communities, we grew up with a belief in the promise of Canada. And unfortunately, in the eyes of many, that is a broken promise, or is at very least slipping away from them. And I've had the chance to hear that directly from thousands of folks door knocking during this campaign. But I'm here to say it doesn't have to be that way. Nothing is wrong with our country that cannot be fixed. Now, I've been proud to run on a conservative platform that offers real solutions to the very real challenges that our country is facing. Now, one of those challenges is most definitely the Donald Trump unjustified tariffs on our country, but that is not the totality of the challenges facing us. For the last 10 years, we've decided decline. We've chosen decline. We've decided to stop thinking big. We've decided to punish hard work rather than rewarding it. We've even had a Liberal government that has went as far as to attack small business owners as tax cheats and look to government revenues from a bottomless pit of our small and medium-sized enterprises. We live in a country where we can no longer build things thanks to Bill C-69, the anti-pipeline, anti-development law that will prevent any new pipelines or mines or hydroelectric dams from ever being built again in this country. And step back and think, the most uniting thing that this country has ever had was Sir John A. Macdonald's Canadian National Railway. And ask yourself, do you think that that railway could ever be built under today's regulatory conditions? And the answer is absolutely not. We have tried the tax, spend, and regulatory approach to prosperity, and it has failed. And I say this just based on the data, but more importantly, based on the conversations that I've had with thousands of folks at doorsteps over the past 4 weeks. So many, hope seems to be slipping away. Seniors can't afford to eat, heat, and house themselves. They're making very tough decisions about whether they stay in their home or move in with their families, or whether they can even afford to buy their grandkids a Christmas gift or a birthday present. The dream of home ownership for an entire generation of young people, even in a community where it is affordable to live compared to Toronto and Vancouver and other places, is simply gone because folks cannot save enough up for a down payment to buy a home in our communities. We've seen skyrocketing food bank use. We've seen food banks pop up in communities that didn't even exist just 6 years ago. We've seen a middle class. Many people have fallen out of a middle class. They become working poor. They're living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by. When I've talked to so many young people at doorsteps that have told me, I'm going on to a little bit of credit card debt every month, a little bit of line of credit debt every single month, just to pay for necessities, not to put my kids in hockey or to ballet or whatever other activity that they want, but just to live. And of course, we've seen crime and chaos unleashed on our streets and drugs flooding our communities. But at those same doorsteps, what I try to do is remind people that we must not give up hope, that we must hope for a better Canada. Now, this election is about who can restore that promise of Canada, that hope for Canadians. Now, we've outlined through during this campaign many measures that I think are going to go a long ways to doing that for our region, for our province, and for our country. And I'll just name a few from the lengthy list. A 15% tax cut across the board, starting with the lowest tax bracket, so every single taxpayer benefits from that tax cut. Axing the carbon tax not just prior to an election by reducing it down to zero, but actually getting rid of it so we can have a lower cost of goods because everything we buy is shipped, travels by train and by truck to our stores, and immediately getting rid of the carbon tax on everything for good on every item. Training up 350,000 unionized trade workers so that we have the capacity to once again build this country up. Lifting the egregious cap on our energy production in this country, and building a national energy corridor so we can unite this country just like Sir John A. Macdonald did once in the past. And we can advance shovel-ready development zones so we can build quickly because we need to act decisively for our Canadian interests. Bringing forward the dream of Churchill once again, where we can have an additional outlet to world markets for our products made here in Manitoba and across Western Canada. Taking a serious look at cutting red tape for chamber business members. I have heard so many complaints about the red tape, the surveys, the frustrations of our small and medium business owners. We need to let the private sector be unleashed. Bringing in a reinvestment tax cut, removing the capital gains, and if you invest it back in Canada to support Canadian jobs, you won't pay a capital gains tax. And most importantly, and everybody in this room knows of the tragic incident of a criminal who was released on bail, breached his conditions, stole a car, got drunk, and ended a young woman's life. We need serious bail reform, and we need to put repeat and violent criminals behind bars for good. So the question that folks are going to have to deal with at the ballot box is this: who has the best plan and the will to put Canada first and to restore that promise of Canada? Who can protect and grow our economy? Who can make our communities safe once again? Who can stop the wasteful and inflation-driving government spending that we've seen over the last 10 years? And who can unleash the potential of our rural economies? The other question you'll have to ask yourselves is this: do you really believe that a fourth Liberal term, with the same MPs, the same ministers, the same advisors, the same staff, and the same platform that has been written for well over a month, will lead to better results this time around? I don't believe the answer to that is yes. I think it is time for change. I think it is time to restore the promise of Canada and offer Canadians hope once again. It is time for a new Conservative government, and I humbly ask for your vote on April 28th. Thank you.